Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock preview of Manchester United against fellow European giants AC Milan in the round of 16, I believe, of the UEFA League of Games. Of Europe, of course. Joining me today is Ronaldo. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing great.
Good to get you on one of these. Were you really happy?
I'm really happy.
Because United have got a big game against a European giant tomorrow?
No, I'm just happy in life.
Oh, even better.
And how can you not be happy the week after beating City?
That's also a very good point.
Said.
I'm also joined by Jay Motti, of course. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Really good, yeah.
In your sage hoodie today.
Thank you.
You're going to be wise like some sort of sage?
I am often wise, as you well know, and I'll try and bring that to this preview.
Good. Right, speaking of Manchester United beating Man City, United's last 5 games have been, what would you call it? A mixed bag, people tend to say, don't they? Not a lucky dip, but some sort of...
Trail mix.
Trail mix, yeah. You've got your nuts. You've got a bit of oatery. But you've also got an M&M in there, a.k.a. the win over Manchester City. We should have a graphic that shows our last 5 games coming up on the screen very shortly. As you see there, no losses. You see the draws there. I mean, the Sociedad one aside, the 3 0-0s in a row, Jay, I'll start with you first. How important was that 2-0 win in terms of kicking on for the Milan games and for the league and just in general, snapping that sort of 3 games without scoring streak?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the derby, there's more at stake than just ending a drab run. There's all everything that comes with it being a derby win, and also the fact you're playing against a City side that were absolutely flying. And United had a couple of players missing as well that sort of got overlooked. So yeah, it was important in that respect. The 3 0-0s I felt was a little bit overstated because I thought the 0-0 away at Chelsea wasn't that bad a result. Thomas Tuchel's obviously doing bits there. The Sociedad game, as you said, we'd already won 4-0, so it's like it didn't really matter. It was only the Crystal Palace one that I can't really defend because it was awful and we just never got going. But no, now we have got that win against City. You hope it's something we can build on. And let's face facts, Milan are almost the ideal opponents in the sense that they're a big name. AC Milan, as you said earlier, is like one of the European giants. But in terms of quality,
Was it 7 Champions Leagues they've won?
something
8,
stupid,
something
yeah,
ridiculous.
And yet they're not really. In terms of the quality of the squad and the team, you think that they're not really at our level, hopefully.
What do you reckon, Ronaldo? How big was that City win? In terms of the game tomorrow, how much confidence will that bring? How much of a, let's say we'd lost that game, how different will tomorrow pan out now? We've obviously broke that streak of Cities and started winning again.
It was a huge confidence boost because of those drab 0-0 draws. You had 3 on a bounce not scoring, which is quite unheard of when it comes to Manchester United. And it was an interesting turnaround. I know why it kind of fuels us with confidence going into the game because the fact that we scored 2 against what was seemingly looking like one of the best defences in recent times in terms of how they were performing in recent games. Under Pep and the fact that we put 2 against them and probably could have had 1 or 2 more, it's going to do a lot of confidence for the forwards because I could tell that they were starting to lose a bit. Because it's interesting how the last 5 games has included 3 0-0 draws in it. We haven't beaten them 5, if you look at it in that sense.
Yeah.
But it was the way the Palace game felt like a loss because sometimes it's easy to look at the scoreline. But I know as United fans, we look into how we've actually performed within the games itself. And the performances were very underwhelming. And that's probably why they almost felt like a loss, even though that they were draws. But it's important that we did beat City. And I think United should have every confidence to go and do the job against AC Milan. You
mentioned there about the forwards getting a bit of confidence, scoring the goals against what has been a really, pretty exceptional City defence this season.
Yeah.
One forward in particular who didn't get a goal, but did win the penalty to score, which won the first goal. He got man of the match as well. Ole was saying how good he was against Manchester City, and that's Anthony Martial. First of all, were you impressed by his performance against City? Do you think it was overblown slightly as almost like a way of Ole going, he was good, and I'm going to say he was really good because he needs the confidence? Or do you think he actually, Martial was brilliant and we're sort of hopefully maybe on the way back to seeing a bit more from him because he's been pretty poor recently, hasn't he?
He has, and I get where you're coming from, like when a manager will do that because he knows a player's low confidence. But I thought Martial played well. We were on the watch along, weren't we? And, he got his penalty. There was still that thing of he should have scored. That could have been costly. It didn't end up being costly as it turned out, but those are the sort of chances a player of the quality of Anthony Martial should be tucking away. And I want him to, because I think that'll do him the world of good, and it would have done him the world of good to get a goal at the Etihad. But I thought he had a good performance. I did. He wasn't my choice of man of the match, but I don't think it was the most ludicrous decision. I saw some people going, what was Gary Neville, I think it was who gave it him, talking about and but I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch, so I understand why he got it, and I hope he can kick on. And listen, Anthony Martial for me is just looks like he's low on confidence. He just does. I don't think he's a bad footballer, and I don't buy into this idea that he's not bothered. I don't think if he's got a chance in front of goal, it's that he's not scoring it because he's not bothered about scoring. I think he's just suffering from some sort of confidence issue, and he didn't get his goal against City. He got a good performance. If he can go into this game and get some goals or get a goal, maybe then we can start getting back to what we saw at the end of last season, because post-lockdown, to sort of the end of last season, Andy Martial is probably our best player, and he's just his form's more in terms of scoring and goals and productivity. It's almost fallen off a cliff. Yeah. So if we have got a chance of silverware this season, with Cavani having a few injury worries and was too much over reliant on the likes of Bruno and Marcus Rashford, we need Andy Martial to step up, especially when you look at Mason Greenwood, who's another player who we all love and rave about. He hasn't quite been that productive as well. So we need Martial firing on all cylinders.
It's weird, isn't it, how obviously the rest of his performances is one thing. He's often been criticised throughout his whole career of like not getting involved enough, not tracking back enough, not closing defenders down, that sort of thing. That's always been one of the criticisms of him. But his finishing was the one thing you never questioned. And yet this season, his finishing been pretty poor, hasn't it? Like, we can think of multiple chances in the Leeds game. Obviously, that one the other night. He's one-on-one with Ederson. And basically, he just side foots it at Ederson's left foot. It was the shot of someone that had... It was almost like Ederson had already gone over, and he was just passing it past him. When Ederson hadn't gone over, he just stood up. Like, it's like he missed the fake shot or the stutter to make Ederson fall over, and just did the shot. Like, is his form in front of goal surprising to you? Because, like I said, we know in the past he can get caught maybe not doing some of the tracking back and stuff, but he could always back it up inside the 18-yard box. He's not quite done that at the minute, has he?
Yeah, it was surprising because the Martial that we've obviously grown to love and knew before this season or prior to this season was someone that was very, very composed in front of goal, and finishing was definitely one of his better attributes. Obviously, dribbling's up there. But he's always been an accomplished finisher. And this season, it almost seems as if he's snatching at chances a little bit, because I don't know if you like the statistics, XG, but he's underperforming it by quite a lot this season, and he actually overperformed it last season. So I don't know whether it's kind of a balancing out thing.
I suppose when you think though, XG is based on every player, isn't it?
Yeah,
or most players. So you think someone who's above average would probably exceed their XG a bit, because that's taken into account strikers who aren't great comparing to strikers who supposedly are pretty good.
Yeah, but what I was going to theorise, even going beyond the XG
come on,
thing,
let's get the theory
is we got to think why Martial's not performed so well this season. And Jay's just touched on it, saying that his confidence, and because
so we can categorise Martial as M, confidence as C. I'm going to put a formula together.
Nah, you can't formulate it like that. Don't bring math into this. You're gonna fully lose me.
The stats.
All right, you've already used C, right? I was gonna say character because
character as well.
Is it
that's sort of C times by C? Okay,
yes.
carry on.
C squared.
So I think. Come on.
Nah, but what
about his energy? His energy.
His energy.
I know where you're going with this. I know.
Jay, you haven't got.
I have.
Come on.
I know what formula he's going to come out with. 100%.
Do you know what it is?
His energy.
Alongside it, us putting it down to him being lacking confidence, I think the personality that we see Martial have, and we've grown to see, because I feel like we know him fairly well now, he's been here so long, is he might just be the type of person that doesn't respond greatly to adversity in terms of his own form and the way he plays. And he has a tendency to get a little bit sulky rather than using it as like to fuel his fire a little bit to get back on form. Like, he looks sometimes where he gives off body language where he's feeling a little bit sorry for himself. And don't get me wrong, people are different. Everyone responds different to adversity and things that they go through, and that might just be him and his personality. So, you could see it as an issue, but I personally think it's either that or it could have been he succumbed a little bit to the pressure of the Cavani signing.
Oh, so another Cavani thing there.
Yeah, because...
So in a way you're saying we need to sort of look out for him because maybe he's having a tough time. So empathy I guess would be
Nah,
ours. We
I'm
can
not saying
categorise
empathy.
as
I think it just might be him.
E equals and then Martial, which is M, and C composure and confidence squared. So I guess you could say E equals MC squared in terms of helping Martial out here.
Totally quadratic,
Quadratic as
But
fuck, man.
now, but that's basically what I might put it down to, because
You just got Einstein's theory of relativity into this preview.
Not some sort of boffin, mate. What are you talking about? Go on, Ronaldo.
now because do you know,
I'm not a nerd.
nah,
Einstein's maternity
Nah,
or something.
Sorry,
Sorry,
did you not
Ronaldo.
know
Just
about
forget Albert.
Never heard of it.
Forget
Don't know
Albert.
what you're talking
Mate.
about.
Forget Albert. He's lost. I think he's lost. He's pretending to act like he understands. But you get two sides of the coin in terms of you sign Alex Telles and you see Luke Shaw become one of the best left backs in the world, probably. And then you sign Cavani and you see Martial kind of succumb to the pressure. He's snatching at chances more because he knows that there's someone that can adequately replace him. Because last season, he didn't have any competition in the number 9 role. He knew he was going to play, and he had his best season ever. So I don't know if that might factor in a little bit. And
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because there was there was Igalo last season, who I know was never going to take his spot, but he was also a striker in his 30s who was never going to be the long-term solution. So there's part of me that, whilst I agree with you, and I know Igalo was never going to be the first choice striker, even within the season he was playing, whereas Cavani now could and maybe has been, Martial in his head should still be thinking, no matter what happens, no matter how good Cavani is, he's going to be gone in 2 years at most. Like, I don't know, I agree with you, and I think that probably plays into it. But for me, there must be something else, because Cavani's never going to take Martial's job to the point where Martial gets sold and Cavani's United's striker for the next 5 years. That's impossible.
But
I know what you mean. I agree, though.
You got to
with
feel
what
like what players think like, because Martial might be thinking, I've just had my best season up front for Manchester United, and I should be the man, and I should kick on next season and get even more. You're in a summer transfer window, and then you see United have gone and signed Cavani. And he's probably... He shouldn't... I'm not saying he should respond like this, but sometimes I think footballers, when it comes to ego and along them lines, they might respond to it thinking, I need to... Instead of like just naturally playing your game, just being a natural finisher that you are and scoring, he might just be feeling a little bit of pressure, because we are saying Cavani's old, but it's a man with a lot of pedigree and had a substantially good career. What was the statistic about only, 3 players have scored more than him in the past decade?
Or Lewandowski, Ronaldo and Messi.
No, I think it's Suarez. He scored more than Suarez, I think it's...
I think he's 4th in the last decade of top scorers.
Yeah, Messi, Ronaldo, Lewandowski, and then Cavani.
Yeah. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Sensational.
Yeah. And he's still, you can see, Cavani's not come here just for an holiday.
No.
You can see he's giving his all. He's not scored loads of goals, but he's scored some important goals. And maybe he might have a point there, Ronnie. He might be feeling that pressure because, like I say, it doesn't seem to be effort to me, because effort doesn't explain missing sitters.
No.
I don't think you're missing the goals, the chances he had against Leeds, chance against PSG, chance against Burnley. That wasn't a player who didn't care. I'm not bothered whether to score this. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think maybe he is snatching at things because he's feeling like it's on him, or my theory is he's just losing a bit of confidence. And plus, I know this might sound a little bit sort of melodramatic, but the lockdown is affecting players. It is, you know what I mean? And you don't know what's going on for a lot of players, and they're just struggling generally. And sometimes they can take that form onto the football pitch.
Definitely. United versus AC Milan then, head to head. We've played them a few times before, as you can see there.
Air conditioning Milan.
Recently, we've done all right. Air conditioning Milan. The 3-2 there,
Get out.
obviously, was the first leg. Rooney scoring the last-minute winner. The 3-0 loss was the Champions League semi-final. Was this semi-final, second leg, wasn't it? Quarter semi-final, wasn't
When
it?
we had I think Rio was injured, but he brought him back earlier. I think he was goosed, and one or two of us.
Yeah, and that was when Kaká tore us apart, wasn't it, that 3-0?
Who was it that he sent it to, Joe? Was it?
It was Heinz and Everett, wasn't it?
Heinz, yeah. At the home leg, it was like O'Shea, Heinz, Everett, and Brown, I think, were our back four. And then he rushed, I can't remember if he rushed Rio and Vidic. I think it was just Rio, I might be wrong. But they weren't fit, and then it just all went wrong over in the San Siro.
But since then, couple of, was it Champions League tie, wasn't it, where Beckham played and we won quite comfortably. They're, not the team they have been in the past. This isn't the AC Milan from 1997 or even 2007. This is a very different team that hasn't won a title in a very long time. You could almost say echoing the trajectory that Man United have had. I've seen that comparison made where the biggest team in Italy all of a sudden falls, from grace a little bit, trying to climb their way back up, and I think they're up second now this season. One of the better seasons they've had. We've got to fancy ourselves, haven't we, against AC Milan, surely. I know that, like I said, that they're doing a bit better this season, but this is a team that is behind an Inter Milan that's basically full of ringers from the Premier League.
Yeah, you think so. I mean, if you want to just sort of break it down to that basic argument, which I think, is a fair comment, yeah, they are. And they aren't the team or the force they used to be, and they have had a decline over the last 15 years, whatever it's been. Similar to our own, I think probably a little bit worse than ours in terms of the quality of the players they've got. And I just think that even, I know we're gonna get into the starting 11s for United a little bit later, but even with the one or two players we've got missing, I still heavily favour United for this side because, like I was saying earlier, this is, Milan is like one of those teams where you go, it's AC Milan. And you think of players like Kaka and, Van Basten.
Seedorf,
Pirlo,
Cafu.
Yeah, Shevchenko and all
players.
these players. And it's like, well, that's not where they're at anymore.
No.
They're a million miles away from that. Do you know what I mean? So you've still got the prestige and the name and everything that goes in Milan, but you haven't got that quality. And I think that when you scratch beneath the surface, United's starting 11, I'd expect to be much superior to the Milan one.
What do you reckon? We're a better team than them, aren't we, surely?
Yeah, we surely should be.
Yeah.
Especially after beating City on the weekend, even though it's a game and it's singularity, but still. I think when you're talking about AC Milan, obviously we don't get to watch them week in, week out. We do know that they are kind of faltering in their league a little bit compared to how they've performed in the past. But I'm sure that they still will have danger men and they will have talented players. Quite often when in European football you play against teams and there's a little bit of an unknown commodity with some of the players that they might play, and then I just don't want us to be complacent or kind of just look beyond AC Milan. I know that they might not be the force that they once were, but it's still going to be a game that we need to turn up and put our best foot forward.
Yeah, we've had a few of in the past. With the Bilbao one is the one that stands out in my mind as we'd be right. We were right. That's all. Yeah, exactly. I don't think they're quite built around the same thing of surprising youngsters in Milan the way that Bilbao were. But again, we can't take them for granted. Right, let's move on to our teams then. If we're going to beat AC Milan, how are we going to do it, Ronaldo? Who's going to do it, should I say?
Oh, my team. Yeah, I've gone for... Yeah, he's put it up correct.
Good.
I've gone for... I'm trying to look beyond Jay's head. Right about
It's
a tricky thing to do.
To navigate, isn't it?
I've got Henderson in goal. I've got Luke Shaw, left back. Luke Shaw, Roberto Carlos. And I've got Maguire centre-half with Bailly. And I've got Wan-Bissaka right back. Gone from midfield of McTominay and Fred. I've got Fernandes in the number 10 role. I've got Greenwood right wing, James left wing, and Martial up top. And that's...
In terms of questions or what I'd like to ask you about there, Bailly is basically the only one where I would go, maybe I wouldn't expect that to be the team. You just gone with him, you prefer him over Lindelof, or is that resting Lindelof, or what's your decision behind putting Bailly in there?
It's nothing other than the fact that I just love Bailly.
It's also a very strong team generally. Like we put in the title of this that there's sort of no excuses, we've got to start winning trophies. You're clearly going for trophies with that.
I don't want us to go into this game with a weakened team. I think it's, at this point, whether you'd like to hear it or not, we've got more chance of winning the Europa League than we do the Premier League.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
even
if we were top of the league, I'd still probably say that. If we were top of the league by a point,
so
I still think this is a better chance.
I think we need to treat... I know we want to solidify top 4 and obviously that second spot and not get into a little bit of a pickle in that situation, but... I don't want us to undersell the Europa League at all. It's an opportunity to get a European silverware and a trophy, and I don't think we should turn that down by playing too much of a weekend side and then getting caught out. I wouldn't want to see that at all. I want us to go out there and win the game. And if you do that in a 2-legged tie, and you get a comfortable lead in the first leg, then you have the opportunity to rest players in the second leg. Yeah,
exactly. Right, Jay, let's have a look what you reckon we're going for, what you think Ola's going to pick.
Yeah, this is my predicted team. I've gone with Dean Henderson. I mean, a bit of a no-brainer. David De Gea is obviously just had his baby. I think mine's very similar, actually, to
Brandon
Ronaldo's.
Williams, again, is the main...
I've gone with Alex Tellez at left-back purely because I think rest Luke Shaw. I don't want to put the full...
And also, it looked like there was some sort of injury or some fatigue or something going on with Luke Shaw. He sat down a couple of times, hunched over a couple of times.
And I think we can, for this sort of game, you can afford to bring in Alex Telles and still get a good performance, and still it doesn't harm the team too much to make that change. I know Luke Shaw's obviously in a rich vein of form, but I think we can afford to do it. Ditto with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think he was someone who obviously always puts a shift in, put a shift in at the Etihad. I think Brandon Williams can come in for this game, give Aaron Wan-Bissaka a bit of a rest. I've gone with Fred and Nemanja Matic in midfield. Fred's always full of beans. I think he can play every 3 or 4 days. I don't think that's an issue. Nemanja Matic obviously didn't play the Etihad, so bringing him in. In terms of the front four, I think he's already said, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in his press conference today, that Marcus Rashford and Edinson Cavani, I think, is doubtful. Rashford's not happening.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I've gone with Dan James, Bruno Fernandes, Mason Greenwood, and the man we've all been speaking about, Anthony Martial up top. That, as you said, is the team that I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will pick. And to be honest with you, if I had my choice of team, I know you like to see this, and it's probably the same thing, that's probably the team I'd go for, because I think that you need to mix it up a bit. You need to go into the West Ham game not having a full 11 who just played on a Thursday night, but still show enough respect to AC Milan, because, yes, they're not the force they were, but they're no mugs.
So. If you have a look at my team, again, same thing as you. It's the team I want, and it's the team I think we will have. My only difference between yours is Wan-Bissaka in for Williams, just because Williams has started so few games this season.
Makes sense.
And then a lot of the other choices are sort of dictated by injury. Paul Pogba, who, by the way, we may have to talk about tonight on Transfers Live. Paddock Live, because there's been a bit of talk about Paul Pogba. But I want to know, where is he? He was meant to be out for the rest of the month. That was 3 weeks ago. Like, we're halfway into March now. Where's Paul Pogba? Where's the update on Paul Pogba?
Don't start this again. We're not in that scenario,
and for anyone else, no, I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. I just think he's injured. I just want to know when he's going to be back. But for anyone else, you get an update. Oh, it's this, it's that. Paul Pogba, last season, he sort of drifted his way through into being injured for about 8 months. Wow. And he was like, oh, we're not sure when he'll be back, or oh, there's this. Like, for some reason, when it's Pogba, you don't know when he's back, and it just takes twice as long as they said it in the first place. So I hope Paul Pogba's all right. I'm not suggesting there's anything other than just an injury, but I want to know an update.
There has been talk of in the past. I'm not saying this is the case, but that I think it was Jose. So you have to take it with a pinch of salt. That Paul Pogba went away and he has his own medical staff to help him as well, and that Jose didn't like that, because he was like, I don't know where he is. He's got his own medical team that look after him, that sort of thing. Ollie seems to be quite happy with that setup. I think it was what happened last season. I think he was sort of doing his own training, and then came back to Carrington and did what he needed to do there. I don't know if that's the case this time round, because, like you said, it looked like it was a relatively minor injury when he went off against Everton. Yeah. And my worry is it just starts to snowball into, like we saw last season, like you said, where it goes from being 3 weeks to 3 months to he's not playing again for United ever.
Yeah. So interesting with Paul Pogba.
I was going to say it might be his approach to his rehabilitation. I feel like not every player heals in the same amount of time. I know he's had hamstring issues before. That usually makes it a little bit worse, and it also makes medical staff a little bit more cautious in terms of how hastily they bring you back. I know he's important to the team, but you don't want a situation where he comes back too early and he re-aggravates it.
I'm not suggesting he comes back earlier than he has to. I just want to know when he's going to be back. An update. That's literally all.
Because he's
as
well, and even Ollie will know that he's the one player that, if you don't give an update, people start thinking of worse. Yeah. People if it was Van der Beek, I think people wouldn't be as... Yeah. Because it's Paul Pogba, and in the past we've had these things where injuries that look relatively minor have ended up being...
Have ended up with Raiola saying he wants to leave Man United. It's like when you've had that's not going to...
I don't know where you're going there for.
As in... he's going to end up somehow not coming back this season.
Yeah, and Raio's like, he
wants him fit for when he leaves.
Yeah, I'm not saying that is happening at all. I think like if you had a girlfriend or something and you found text on her phone before, and then all of a sudden she goes out with her mates, doesn't come back home that night and doesn't text you, you're like, well, that's the end of that then. She's gone. Whereas if she just texts you, you'd be like,
do you know what?
Cool, do you know what? Do you know what? Paul Pogba, like some hurt fucking girlfriend.
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie here. That sounded a bit like PTSD.
It's not PTSD. Get over yourself, mate. What do you know? Right, AC Milan's last 5 games. As we said, I believe they're second in the league, or they certainly were second in the league. But as you see, their last 5 games, they've dropped a stunning 7 points. Fucking hell, I'm very good at maths, mate. They've dropped 7 points in the last 5 games. And, the teams they've lost to, that critically, that 3-0 against Inter Milan, they're a decent team, aren't they? Does their form sort of... mean anything to you, or do you just think we're better than them? Doesn't matter whether they'd won the last 5, lost their last 5. We're going to beat them anyway.
Form, of course, matters because it can make those little bit of percentages difference in terms of confidence and how a team's kind of feeling themselves and morale. But as you've pretty much mentioned, I think right as we stand now, United should be comfortable favourites against this current AC Milan side, regardless of the form that they're in, because we have better players. I know we've got a couple injuries, but I think even with the team that we've got left, it would be an upset if we didn't get a result against these.
And just to clarify, they are still second in the league, clinging on for dear life. They think they're 4 points ahead of Juventus with a game in hand. Juventus have got a game in hand. So they're still second in the league. They're ahead of Juventus, who, just got knocked out to Porto last night. So say what you want about Juventus.
They've got a bit of an injury crisis, AC Milan.
They do have a bit of an injury crisis.
So we're not expecting the big
Indeed.
hitters.
Well, no, we can move on to that because we've put their main man as Frank Kessie, who's a central midfielder who, generally speaking,
never heard of him,
was considered quite a defensive midfielder.
Right, okay.
From what I know about him. But he's got 10 goals this season. He's played, I think, the second most or third most minutes in their team behind Donnarumma. So he's one of their sort of main guys. He isn't injured, but they've got injuries to the likes of Rebic, to the likes of Ibrahimovic, Kalanoglu as well. So a lot of their big names that you may have heard of or you may know aren't here for this game.
And that's what I mean. I was looking at it just then briefly on the preview. It was like, I know Zlatan wasn't going to be there because obviously there's a big song and dance made about that.
Yeah.
But then you say like Kalanoglu, we've been linked with.
And Rebic.
Yeah, those are the only players that you sort of, other than Diogo Dalot, who apparently can play against us, which is just,
which is fun.
Fantastic.
We was talking about that. Who decides whether the loanee player is allowed to play?
I think it's the clubs.
Yeah.
I think it's you're allowed to do it in Europe. I think you can put a clause in your contract where you say no, even if you play each other, you can't play.
Because me and Jay said before the game, is there not like a bit of a just an avoid a controversy kind of thing by not letting a
traditionally that was
play.
Always the case, wasn't it? You never used to let lone players play against you.
Because for example,
but in the league you can't do it, but in Europe it seems possible. Obviously we know Coutinho, the famous one, scored against Barca in the Champions League semi-final as a Barcelona player playing for Bayern Munich.
That's
so,
what I know. No, but it was
That's
also
so mental.
No, but we was talking about the thing. Say we played against West Ham, Lingard plays. He's
through on goal and he skies it,
and he skies it.
Yeah.
So could we be in a scenario with Diogo Dalot?
Has he missed that on purpose?
Potentially.
It could. It sounds odd, but it is what it is.
Teo Hernandez as well, another one of their key players, fullback. Teo Hernandez. He plays sort of as a winger as well a little bit. I think he's also out injured.
So I know we've got some players out. Obviously, Pogba and Rashford and Cavani. It's quite
better than the ones they've got out. If we're honest.
Yeah. But
now they can whinge about injuries. I wouldn't swap their injured players for our injured players. So if anyone gets to whinge, it's us who's got 250 million quid worth of players out injured.
Do you know what I mean?
But don't hear us whinging about injuries, do you? Except now.
No, we do. Fiction. That don't count. In terms of the injury thing, you might not compare player to player. You might compare just relative importance to the team.
I know. But still though, Rashford, equal or second most important player. Pogba, I would say third or fourth most important player. Cavani, not far behind him. So really, who is more other than
and literally
Bruno?
Every player that you named that's out for AC Milan is probably in their top 6 players on the team.
Yeah, I agree. But so are ours.
Yeah,
I think it's not that different. Is what I'm saying. Cavani's our main striker. Rashford's our highest assister. I think or Rashford. Equal. Other than Bruno, and then I would put Pogba after that, and Pogba maybe with Maguire in terms of next most important. So
basically, both weakened, no excuses for either, but United should win.
Yes,
that's the bottom line of it.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, I'd go with that one.
I would agree with that. Right, before we go, then let me get your score predictions. I'll start with you, Jay. It's a home game. Remember that it's the first of 2 legs, so bear all that in mind. Of course, you would do. But what's your score prediction?
I'm going to go with 3-0 to Manchester United. A comfortable but not tie-ending win.
Comfortable. Would you say 3-0 is comfortable? Pretty comfortable.
It's pretty comfortable.
It's like some old slippers. That.
Yeah.
Ronaldo, what are you saying?
Not always comfortable, them. But
sorry.
Stephen Howson levels of arguing. Yeah. I knew some slippers that weren't comfortable.
Yeah, some old slippers that have got loads of shards of glass in them.
Yeah. How are they comfortable? Stop talking rubbish.
It triggered something that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Did it?
Feet like mine, but
shit. Sorry.
My scoreline prediction is going to be. Dum-dum-dum-bum.
Why are you saying it like it's a punchline? You meant to do a drum roll. It's going to be 1-0. It's not a joke. It's a
sick burn. He's had you there.
I've been had. But anyway, 2-0 United.
Nice. We've got a couple in the comments as well. Liam Clark 1-1 draw. Jacob OC says 1-0. JB says 2-0. I'm going to go. I think it's going to be trickier than we think, and we're still not on the greatest run of form. I'm going to go 2-1 United. I think we're going to have to do a little bit in the San Siro, if I'm honest. But I think we'll win. I just don't think it's going to be particularly great. Gordon 4-1, 8-8 Augusta 4-0, and Bad Ath Mofo 9-0 again. I'll take that. All predicting wins, though. All predicting, I think, a victory in the tie.
Yeah.
It seems as though the people in the comments are as well. We're going to be here for the watch-along tomorrow. It's going to be me. It's going to be Jay. It's going to be Adam McCullough sat right where Ronaldo is now after everything has been thoroughly sanitised. Make sure you check out the watch-along. Tonight o'clock at 9, we're going to be going through all the news, including updates, if there are any, on the fact United have appointed a technical director. If you haven't already watched the video, Jay went live earlier on that, so make sure you check that out. Big news today. There's some news on the right back. Ooh. There's updates on strikers. Ollie's been talking about Haaland again. We're only going to have to bloody talk about it, Jay, so make sure you check in at 9 o'clock. And again, all the match day coverage tomorrow. We'll be having Stephen Howson here as well. Thank God. Thank you very much for joining me, Ronaldo.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Where can people find you?
On Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook.
Just in the park looking for a scrap and that.
Yeah,
like where though?
Ronaldo Brown _98 is what you follow on Twitter for amazing and great tweets.
Amazing and great tweets. And Jay, what about you?
They'll find me at 9 o'clock tonight, stood next to you. That's where they need to find me. And as producer Cam said in the Eccles as well, if you're in the Eccles area, just shout.
Fantastic. And check me out at JoeSmith93 on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you very much for joining us at home. That's been the Manchester United versus AC Milan preview. Massive game coming up, that, isn't it? Two absolute giants. We'll see you in a bit.